Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you. Today we have the Kizer Begleiter Titanium knife. I'm very excited to bring to you guys because I was not expecting to like this one nearly as much as I do. This is the fancy pants version of the Kizer Begleiter that we've all come to know and love from their Vanguard series. That was G10 handles, thumb stud deployment, and used to be VG10 steel. They are in the process of switching over to Buller N690, as they are in a lot of the Vanguards, which I think is pretty cool. It's a unique steel choice, so it's nice to see them doing that. This has kind of a multi-grind Tanto blade. Both of those things are things I don't normally like, but I do on this one. We'll talk more about that as we go on. Looks wise, holy crap, this thing is pretty. That's something that just blew me away the first time I flipped it open. Took it out of the box, thought, wow, this is really nice looking. And then I flipped it open, I was like, oh my. But we will start from back to front. I like the look of this pocket clip a whole lot. I like this, they took the time to put this little indentation here. It's a titanium milled pocket clip, as you can see. I like the look of all these scallops taken out of here, this kind of technical way. I usually prefer the lock bar recess to be on the inside, but if you're going to put it on the outside, yeah, do it like that. Man, that looks good. The only little bit of color, just a little, blue collar around the pivot, which is fine with me. But the prettiest part of this blade is this knife is just, look at this blade. It is gorgeous. I will go out on a limb and say that overall, this is one of the best looking production knives that I've ever handled. It's just hugely impressive on a visual scale. It's a very, very pretty thing. I like the finish that Kizer uses. It doesn't seem to snail trail much. Not the grippiest thing in the world, but this isn't really that kind of knife. And other things make it grip pretty well, but it's just, it just looks good. And I said it doesn't scratch up much, but that blade. I'm just distracted, guys. I'm sorry. Every time I use this thing, I'm just distracted by it. Let's do some stats and some size comparisons before we get too much farther, before I lose my tiny little mind. We have an overall length of 8.2 inches, blade length just a hair over 3.5 inches. You have a blade thickness of 0.12, a handle thickness of 0.46 inches, and a weight, according to my scales, of 2.87 ounces. So pretty thin, pretty slim, pretty light knife. It's definitely kind of, I would put it in that gentlemanly kind of folder category, as you will see when we start doing these size comparisons. A couple of our usuals. We have your Spyderco Paramilitary 2. You can see it's a long knife. It's almost the same length as a PM2 and a little bit longer than a Benchmade Griptilian full size. And then we will move on to some knives that I think this more reminds me of. You have your Benchmade 940. Yeah, pretty overall similar in size and even close in weight, really, to a 940. And your Real Steel Metamorph. Again, pretty similar in size to that. And we'll just bring one last one because they're a little harder to get, but still a knife that I think this thing's going to be sharing pocket time with, is the Boost Blade Smoke. Yeah, very, very similar in overall almost everything to the Smoke, except the Smoke's a front flipper. But, different blade chip. You know what I mean, though. But in the overall size and shape and all that stuff, it does kind of, it's one that I will debate between some days. Do I want to take the Smoke or take this? Now, breaking this knife down, we'll start with the most important part, the blade. I don't like Tantos. I don't like multi-grinds. I like this one. And part of it, maybe it's pretty face. It may be this, it looks hand polished. I know it isn't, but it does kind of look it. It's just very, very nice looking blade. And man, when they went for this multi-angle grind, they definitely made it different. The flat here, thickness behind the edge, 12 thousandths behind the edge. Will it slice some stuff? Let's grab some paper over here. If I can, I put two pieces of paper on top of each other. There we go. Oh, yeah. all day long. It is super extremely slicey on this flat part. And then also, but then you move up to this tip where it's ground completely different on the Tanto. This is about 25 thousandths behind the edge, which still isn't insane, but it's, you know, God, it's more than twice as thick. Still slices okay, but you do get a much better tip there, so you can actually use it for stabbing into some stuff. On Tantos, one of the few things that I like about them regularly is, I don't know, maybe I'm a weirdo, I use the little angle here, you know, to cut open boxes and stuff like that, so I know I'm not penetrating down far into the box and cutting whatever it is I'm trying to get out. Not that I would ever do that. Only a moron would do that. I've done that lots. But, yeah, it still doesn't seem too terribly difficult to sharpen. I don't think it's going to be. I admit I have not had to yet. The one thing I will say, blade-wise, I do have a criticism of is, and you can even see this in pictures on other ones, so I know this isn't just like this was a bad one, but you can see that is not back here on the sharpening choil. Yeah, they missed it. So you do get a bit of a drop down there, which it's a bit disappointing. Other than that, you know, I really like this blade. I mean, as much as I don't like Tantos, I love how thin this thing is and how well it slices. And it just looks so damn good. It really does. It's really, I'm sure the camera is not doing it justice. And I'm not wearing a mask to hide my face because I should if you don't want to see it. But yeah, it's super shiny. Just looks awesome. Now, ergonomics wise, it's pretty good. The pocket clip, you can't even feel it at all. It does lock your hand in pretty good. It's not grippy, but everything else makes it grip in pretty well. Your thumb's locked in there pretty good. It's very comfortable for being a thin handle like this. If you don't like thin handles, you're not going to like it. If you don't like a Benchmade 940, you're not going to like this. But if you're okay with a thinner handle knife, yeah, this is a good one. It works really, really well. Carry, let's bust out Yield Wranglers. Drop it in there. Slides in and out super easy as you'd expect. That titanium, hardly anything showing. Really classy looking clip sticking out. With that very minimalist flipper tab, super easy to get your hand by. It weighs less than 3 ounces. There's absolutely nothing to complain about carry wise. And you know, how do they get it that light? Well, it's very machined out inside. I don't know if I'm going to be able to catch that. Probably help if I have the blade out of the way, right? Yeah. Very well hollowed out inside. Still not sure if it's catching it, but I assure you it is. Very deep pockets inside there. Very, very well done. Deployment. I'm going to make one little caveat here just to say that I am not the original owner of this knife. Someone offered to loan it to me and then said I could trade for it if I wanted to, and very nicely said, just send back whatever you think is fair, because I like weird stuff. So he's getting 10 Z Hunters back. No, I'm kidding. I have something planned. I actually ordered something for him to send back to him. So when that gets here, I'll send that to him. But he did say that he found the detent to be interesting. He didn't really specify what that was and what the issue he had with it was. And he said he tried to fix it and couldn't make it better. It was a bit stiff when I first got it. I took it apart. I did adjust the detent to where now I think it is nigh on perfect. But I can't say what one will be like out of the box. If it's stiff like this one was, or if it's like I have it now, or if it was less. I can't really comment on it. I can say that if you mess with one for a minute, it's freaking awesome now. It works great. It's so smooth. Running on bearings as you'd expect, all that stuff. The flipper tab, yes, it is small. One of my other few little complaints about this knife is I do wish there was just a bit of jimping on that flipper tab. I don't think that would have killed him because especially when it was a little stiffer, my finger would slip off that a little bit. Now that I backed it off a bit, now it's not a problem, but I would still not mind there to be just a touch of jimping on there. I will also say you got to make sure that you're not putting any pressure on the lock bar. That's a common problem with frame locks, and especially really slim ones like this. You have to think for a second and make sure. So I just make sure I'm pushing most of my finger tension here on the pocket clip and not on the lock bar. But since I backed the tension off a bit, even if my fingers are on the lock bar, you can still get it open. It's just a bit more effort than if you don't. which is just physics. You'd expect that. So what is my overall impressions of this knife? Probably, like I said, I think one of the best looking production knives I reviewed in a long time. And I would say of this current production stuff that I've handled, my favorite Kizer. I think it's just super nice. Again, the drop point, I would probably like that blade in use more. It's definitely be easier to sharpen, all that kind of stuff. But as far as looks go, this Tanto looks so fantastic. It's looks, ergonomics, carry, the total package. Yeah, I'd say this is my favorite thing they make right now. And $169, if you get one in your hand, you're not going to think you were overcharged. It is very well done, very well made. Comes in the cool, I've already put it away, the cool Kizer sarcophagus box with all the stuff in it, you know, your cleaning cloth, all that kind of stuff. You're definitely going to feel like you got your money's worth. And it's just so damn good looking. The drop point doesn't look, it looks almost as good, but it just doesn't have that multifaceted, you know, kind of thing going on. Really, really liking it. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. Go check one out. As always, you can use White Mountain Knives discount code SDWMK at checkout. Get 10% off. Hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.